but diversity, making sure that we have the right adverts correct. So we're having the right language, the right tone, it's clear, it's transparent.
Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you've liked our content so far, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify and stay tuned for our weekly episodes. My name is Lydia, and joining us today is Kesh Ladwa, the Global Head of Talent Acquisition at Hotelbeds. Hello, Kesh. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Lydia.
So, Kesh, you've built an impressive career in recruitment, serving both the public and the private sectors. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you've built your capabilities in talent acquisition over the years.
Yeah, no problem. I fell. I guess everyone fall into recruitment at some point. And so did I. I mean, I've been in recruitment for about 29 years. And I originally started off in recruitment agencies where back in the days, we used to have yellow pages and we used to be contacting organizations cliently. So a lot less sophisticated than what it is now. And then I was working with agencies, and then from there I had my recruitment agency.
And your then own recruitment agency?
Yeah, I had my own recruitment agency, so I was doing consulting work with agencies at some point, and then I decided to go in-house because I wanted to work with organizations to kind of just do half of the journey, just to be able to place candidates into the roles, but also work with the organization to be able to help them create the strategy, the culture, the organization, because I just felt that there was more I can give to the candidates and also the organization as well, and help them build that for long term as well. And then from that kind of worked in public and private sector organizations, and then BBC News, where I was a global head of TA for BBC News, and then recently with Hotelbeds as their global head of talent acquisition.
So what were some takeaways you might have had from your life in agencies that you've taken with you into organizations?
Yeah, I mean, being very client-centric focused is probably key. I mean, in the agency, the training's great. The training, how to work with clients and make sure that we find the right solution for the clients using data and insight with the agencies and building that relationship, because successful recruiters will be building that relation, being a sort of a partner with the organization, being an extension of the organization's TA. And that's what I did, and made sure that was a unexpendable partner to the organizations I used to work with. So I worked with various clients in aerospace, engineering, automotive as well, and working with those clients was really important, where we really understand what their strategy was, giving them data and insight to be able to kind of identify what roles for the current market and influence, and helping them to make a more informed decision on the roles or the talent or the skills they're looking for and they're recruiting for, short to long term. So that kind of helped, and then making sure then we're sort of over delivering and kind of making sure that we're working as a partner. So we're giving any insights on what's happening in the market, candidates, what they're looking for, what's not working, and then finding the right person or right talent, right fit for the organization. So there's definitely that whole partnership approach which I took in-house when I went into the organization, because I was already building relations with hiring managers, excos, senior leaders. It was just taking that internally to be able to say, well, look, this is how we can work together, and also then working the other way, working with the agencies when I was in-house, and still do with agencies a lot more collaboratively and making sure we're working as a partnership. So I understand how the agencies work, and also.
So you oversee talent acquisition in your current role globally for Hotelbeds. So what are some observations you've made, Kesh, about the demand and availability of tech talent? So are there any interesting insights that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think if I don't mention COVID, COVID's impacted everyone, including travel and hospitality. And a lot of the travel and hospitality organizations have had to adapt, and a lot of them have grew to the challenge and have adapted and been successful and come out the other end. And that's the same with hotel beds as well. So organizations where they had digitalization on their plans but weren't really there, it just quickly accelerated the whole plans for everyone. So they had to develop their capabilities and also adapt, like remote working and using technology, reliance on technology a little bit more where they probably might not have been, and definitely having a remote working mindset. Because at that time before COVID, a lot of organizations were not 100% sure whether they're going to be doing remotely or whether they were just sort of trialing. But now, it's the norm. You can't really go away from that. And then organizations started using technology more, which is accelerated a lot of the usage of tech and implementation of tech and also reviewing of tech as well. Then you've got increased salaries where larger organizations were able to provide higher salaries, packages, generous benefits compared to the more smaller organizations who weren't probably ideal to provide that initially. So they've had to kind of diversify on that as well. So tech talent having many options as well, from strong brands and work and the tech they'd be working with or like to work with, and then the culture that they'll be going into, the organization they're trying to work with, and a lot of the tech talent are focusing on the work-life sort of balance and making sure that they have the right role, but they have the work-life balance as well and the lifestyle that they're looking for, which resulted in organizations build and invest in their brands. So a lot of organizations invested a lot of time on the employer brands. That appeals. One just probably just revisiting it, enhancing it, redeveloping it. They employ a brand, so it's appealing to potential employees whilst competing with other organisations in the marketplace as well. That might be their career side, that might be their comms on their vision and the values, the cultures, diversity inclusion as well, because that's something else that talent have been looking for when they're kind of looking at culture, because they'll go to your career side and they'll start looking and researching your organization, and which has made it a lot easier. And then it's just resulted in a sort of a candidate market after that, because it's candidates have more options, so they can pick and choose on the organizations and brands they want to be associated with, or tech they want to be working on, or culture they want to be part of. I think it's kind of turning now where candidates, organizations have been spending a lot of time, so there's a lot more consistency. Candidates know what they're exactly looking for. But yeah, there's still scarcity on tech talents at the moment.
There's all this convergence of factors, and it's all coming together, and it's making talent acquisition a lot more competitive, or rather, it is in a competitive space. So how do you position Hotelbeds when you're trying to attract top talent, especially when, as you said, they've got plenty of different options and their expectations are changing, and they may, in fact, even look for a specific type of tech to grow into as a professional.
So one thing is, when it comes to the remote, where we offer remote working to all of our staff, if they want to go into any of our offices, then they can. Which is a potential, which is a benefit where other organizations probably may not be able to do that 100%, where we do. And then there's the other side of the culture of the organization. So, individuals can come in, they can work with the organization. The culture at Hotelbeds is great, and people love it. It's open, it's transparent, it's a bit of a family feel. So everyone's got a voice when it comes to the organization. And that's the bit that, and there's tech and there's insight as well. So when you're kind of looking at the tech that we're trying to work on, or the exciting projects that we're sort of working on, or the expansion of the business as well, or the success the business has, that's really exciting for tech talent, because they want to come in and say, well, look, I want to input into this. I want to know what tech you're going to do. I want to be part of something that I'm going to grow or develop, and then also development for our staff as well. So that's really at the heart of things that we do. So making sure that there's we've got what we call uni within Hotelbeds, which staff can go in, they can develop skill sets, they can learn a bit more. Um, you can move also once you've done that and you want to develop and move across the business, you can move locations. If you're in the UK or Europe and you want to move elsewhere in the business, that is possible.
So those are a lot of attractive perks and a lot of attractive, not to say perks, but those are all good positioning for it constitutes good positioning for the company as well. So what do you look out for when you search for top talent in this particular vertical, and what constitutes a successful hire?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely the motivation, motivation, drive for talent. So someone who wants to come into your organization and be motivated to make a difference, to kind of drive success and be and also has a willingness to learn and share their ideas, their knowledge and skills with others and the business as well. And then also looking at, obviously you've got to, within tech, I guess, with any role, you still got to kind of look at the hard skills, which is all the knowledge, skills and experience. If it's a DevOps, then, you need the skills, the hard skills, to be able to do that role. And then you've got the soft skills that allows them to build relationships and culture and input into the culture in the business. Which is, and it just sets them up for success. So both sides, obviously you need someone tech, you need someone, who knows how to do things, but also the soft skills is equally important to make sure they can build relationships, input into the culture, and help create a culture that they're trying to make. But obviously, diversity kind of plays. So whether making sure we have a diverse talent when we start attracting talent from all backgrounds, and we just in all locations. So wherever the talent is and wherever, that's where we'll go. And the good thing is that we're not kind of sort of wedded to a location. So for example, TA will always work with the hiring managers closely. So if there's certain talents in, I don't know, in Spain and in Palma, for example, and we haven't got it there, or Milan or whatever, then if the talent's somewhere else, we'll change the location based on the talent. So we'll find the talent wherever the market is, and then we'll work with the hiring managers to identify and change that location, because it doesn't need to be that location if the talent's not there to make a difference. So we'll find the right talent for the right role, and then we'll work with the business and the hiring managers to be able to align that as well, because it's really important to find that talent. And once you find that talent, identifying the fit in the organization, wherever that might be, whether it's now or future, is what what the team will be working on.
And diversity, as you mentioned, is a critical topic. So what might be some best practices around implementing DE&I policies or processes even in recruitment?
Diversity inclusion is really important. Diversity within the recruit process, some of the quick wins that we can probably do is making sure, obviously you've got blind recruitment. So you've got blind recruitment, which is removing any conscious bias, but as blind recruitment, you only kind of resolves the first bit, which is taken up to the interview process. It's not a quick win. Well, it's a quick win per se if you haven't done it. So it kind of helps with identifying biases and stuff like that. But then it just kicks the can down the road up to the interview point, because then you still have the issue. But diversity, making sure that we have the right adverts correct. So we're having the right language, the right tone. It's clear, it's transparent. We're making sure that we're advertising in the right places. When we're kind of then shortlisting candidates, we can implement blind CVs, so it kind of then removes that unconscious bias initially up to the interview stage. But then having the interview panel that's diverse and representative of the organization, and then making sure the interview itself is robust as well. So it's evidence-based, you're clear on exactly what questions you're going to be asking, what skills and knowledge you're trying to pull out, and then you have the right evidence to be documented, so you know that you're assessing the individual on the right aspects, and just make it a lot more human through the process. You don't need to kind of make it regimented in that way, but just capturing and asking the right questions and making sure you have the right panel members is important.
So how long do you take to hire someone in tech? I mean, what is an ideal duration, or do you even have an ideal duration for the recruitment process, and what might be the approach towards assessments, especially in tech?
Yeah, hiring can take days. I mean, depending on working with the managers, it means you can take days, you can take weeks, depending on the role, the seniority. If it's a senior role, then obviously will take weeks because it's a more stringent process. But generally, it could take days. So you can have a conversation with hiring managers, um, um, and so we kind of start sharing the ideal fit to the managers to make a decision, and then look at plans, and then creating roles when necessary. I mean, with the hiring managers, but it could take days. So we can have a conversation with the hiring manager and say, look, we've got these candidates, they're instantly available, or they're not, and there's notice period. But the interview process, in one, initially making contact, we've already spoken to them, that's one thing. But as soon as we talk to them, having a discussion with the hiring manager, having an initial phone call, first interview, second interview, that could be done within a week. You can have one interview depending, but as long as everything else is also lined up. But initial conversation from TA to the manager so with the manager, first interview, second interview, and offer, you could do it in a week. You could do it, but then obviously you've got a notice period after that. But initial candidate experience wise, you can move as quickly, adapt, and be agile as much as you need to, or as less, providing that excellent candidate experience.
So does that include the assessments that you might necessarily need for these roles?
Yeah. I mean, part of that, I mean, depends on what you need to assess for, because sometimes you can overdo assessing. You can assess for the sake of assessing, and you can extend the whole recruitment process unnecessarily. So if you're going to be assessing I don't know, DevOps or SQL or something like that, then you assess exactly what you need to assess to make an informed decision whether the person has the knowledge, skills, and experience for that, and not just as extending those assessments for assessment's sake and making the whole recruitment process complex. It's just having that mindset of what the candidate can do now and could do in the future with development. With that, and that's what you're assessing on. Based on assessments and what you kind of get back, you kind of then assessing, well, look, they can do this is what we need right now, this is the potential, or the individual can do this with a little bit of development in where we want it to go, because they've kind of done 90% of it and probably need to do the 10. But just assessing what's relevant and not just assessing for assessment's sake is probably the key takeaway on that.
So on that note, Kesh, what are some challenges that you faced in attracting and retaining tech talent, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, compensation packages, sometimes it's not competitive. It's always, everyone always kind of says, yeah, it's the money, but the market, it's compensation packages it's just not competitive in some roles, some organizations, because some of the larger organizations will always be able to provide fantastic packages, fantastic salaries, and everything else. But then it's the other bit with that, which is the work-life balance, the remote working, the career development, and that's probably more the small organizations and also the big ones that need to kind of focus on art. Also, some of the other challenges are showcasing yourselves in a very competitive landscape. So we need to be clear on the vision, sort of the tech that we're working on, the culture, the ED&I, which is really important because people will research that, and then also the areas of the organization that's looking to develop. So it's so great just talking about successes, but also the areas of development for the organizations and opportunities where these members of staff can kind of come in and make a difference and input into the roles as well. One of the other one we touched on was the bias in recruitments, because that's definitely a challenge for ourselves and loads of organizations. It's within the recruitment, we just make sure we have the right gender diversity, the ethnic diversity, and which has been an issue for years, and it still is. And we don't have enough women in tech, which we already know, and it's been there for years. And something has to change where we just need to stop relying on what we have had before. Because if we do the more same off, then we're just going to shorten the talent pool, and it doesn't help to solve the problem either. So that bias in recruitment as well. But the organisations are working on that; they are developing it. But there needs to be a more conscious approach around that. Engaging passive candidates, so the tapping into passive candidates, not just looking at candidates who are looking right now, but also in the future. And as I said, you're looking about 75% in global workforce, roughly, I think. So that's a big talent pool that we're not tapping into. So that proactive talent pooling, nurturing, talking to people, building relationships, pushing your employer brand, your culture, your vision. So by the time the candidates see these passive candidates have already made a decision that if they were looking, you would be on the list. So that half of that hurdle has already been, kind of completed that. When the right opportunity comes up, that's when, they need to make a decision, because they've already made a decision, they'll join your organization. Changing the skills landscape. So making sure the skills are relevant today and then changing it for tomorrow as the business grows. And then you've got and that kind of links into the talent shortage. So less talent, more roles. It's never changed. So there's always less talent, more roles, but upskilling internal staff, repurposing internal staff as well, developing, because that might take a little bit shorter time than, and also investing in as talent is part of your culture and vision anyway. So definitely invest, definitely look at upskilling, because that's going to be, they've already committed, you've already got them to already work in the organization. And it might cost you less to actually do that, but also you're investing in your staff. And then the right fit for the organization, work with hiring managers, creating the right personas on what you are looking for, will help reduce time and increase efficiencies. So using ATSs, CRMs, working with hiring managers, and one, getting it right, exactly what they're looking for, and then going out and then finding and using tech to help you do that. And finally, I'll just say, complex hiring processes, streamline the process, make it simple, because you've already spent a lot of time and everything. You don't want to waste all the hard work that you've done in nurturing that talent and building it to then ruin it when you kind of go into a complex, cryptic, a sort of a escape room recruitment process, where it's not necessary. Just keep it simple. You've done hard work, and then you'll get the talent through the door.
In talent acquisition as a responsibility, or as a department, or as a kind of function on its own, has evolved, like you said, right? So how would you describe the role of a talent acquisition partner in today's context? What does a TA specialist need to be or have in terms of tech, or in terms of even being data driven?
Yeah, so I mean, they've got to be consultants and not order takers. I always say that to my team and any team I've had. So, they are consulting their partners and not order takers. Be confident in what you have to share with the managers, because they're there, they're listening. You've got valuable insight. And communication is key, as making it two-way. You can get to a place where managers feel he knows what he would like and what approach that works, with a collaborative approach in finding the right talent. And to be honest, just challenging kindly, I would say, with manager. I say challenge kindly because some managers may not like it. Yeah, challenge kindly, as managers are there listening for a reason. So which is a good thing. So they're giving you the space, the time, to listen to you, what you've got to say. So you've got the information and you've got the advice they need to help them make a informed decision. So don't be afraid to do that. So know your data, make sure it's all fact, not fiction. And data without insight or commentary is a waste of time, because it doesn't tell the story. You need to tell the story, because managers will just be looking at loads of data and get confused. So they'll just say, look, just tell me what you want me to what you don't want to tell me. So tell the story. And then see what, and then tell the story to them and see what you want them to kind of tell the story in the way that you want to tell the story, and then tell the ending the way you want it. And if there's any options that you need them or decision you need them to make, then ask them to do that. Because data is great, but you need the data with the commentary, you need the insights to be able to go with that, which will help the managers to build trust and also get to a conclusion and an outcome that both parties are happy with.
Being data driven also enhances your approach towards your talent strategies, right? So you look at the data, you look at what needs to be done, you see where you need to tweak them, etc. And so how does data play a role in your team? How do you use it in terms of fulfilling business needs of like today and also in the future?
Yeah, we review salary and packages according to market insight. So you got that, you got developing skills, review skills you may need in about 3 to 6 to 12 months. Market changes for the better or the worse. So you need to kind of look at your workforce strategy. So build, buy, borrow, and you got bot as well. So kind of aligning out your workforce strategy with your plans. You've also got location review with remote working and go global and also being result focused. And then you've got employer branding. So tell your story on the culture to allow talent to be followers before they actually are applicants as well.
That's interesting. Followers before applicants.
Yeah, that's really important because you're nurturing the talent. So, and as I said, they've already made decisions. They're already followers of the organization, so they click the follow button. They're watching what you do. They're listening to what you've got to say, and then when the vacancy comes up, the applicants. So half your journey is done.
Let's discuss artificial intelligence now. So there's been widespread adoption of AI. I mean, we've seen ChatGPT, we see what it's capable of, and we see how it makes things easier for us. So how do you think TA professionals can benefit from AI tools such as ChatGPT or any other solution out there?
It was really good. I got loads of branding points on that. Some of the pros on that is always going to be like reduce your admin time. So there's stuff that you can kind of do, which is going to reduce admin time. You can get more quality candidates if you're using AI because you're already assessing against a certain criteria which you've identified and you're following. And it's based on evidence and it's based on facts, not fiction. Then I think there needs to be that whole balance between tech and human. So the human touch points are really important, where you can reduce administration and repetition. Definitely use AI, it kind of helps, but then making sure that you have the human touch points to kind of push your culture, because how do you kind of push your culture through AI 100%? Your culture, your vision, and kind of humanizing the whole process. And could we solely be reliant on AI through the whole process? Probably not. But it's got a role to play. It's definitely got a role to play. It's definitely helping TA to kind of, I know TA kind of use it. I know loads of people who use it, and it kind of helps them. Probably interview questions, job adverts possibly, and various other, information they can pull from it. But also with the AI, it's not just TA side, but you've got candidates as well now who've got a bit savvy on using it. So candidates are using it to kind of prep on interview questions, on what interview question you might have when I go for a DevOps, or what to do when you do an interview, or what to say when you kind of someone asks you about salary, what salary are you looking for, and what's the best answer on that. They're using that as well from not just from a TA's perspective, but candidates and people in general life, because you can, as I said, I've used it in my personal life, and there's both sides. So you've got candidates using it, you've got TA using it. So it does play a purpose, but eventually, I guess at some point, where does it kind of filter? Because you then probably end up getting the same information, but or not, But it's good. It's got a role to play at the moment, and people are using it, and candidates are using it. So but it's facilitated. It's not, it can't solely be that, because at some point you'll get every candidate answering the same questions.
Yeah, I was going to pick up on that, because if that's a trend, or at least that's the kind of the sort of signs that we're seeing very early in this trend, then what might be the edge for a recruiter who's interviewing? How should they approach interviews, and what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, the TA, when they're kind of doing the interviews, asking those probing questions to kind of drill into those pieces of work, or finding the detail behind that whole process, because obviously you can get the same answers, but not everyone's done the same work. It'll give them guidance, but it won't give them the full complete answer to say, well, this is what you need to say, because everyone's individual, and everyone has different roles and experiences. But TA has that human touch point, so they need to, and managers need to be using that to, one, make it humanized, and that humanized touch, humanized recruitment process, and then also then asking key questions, probing questions, to be able to drill in a bit deeper and directing the conversation in to identify the right skills, hard and soft skills that they need to pull out from the candidate in the recruitment process.
So, Kesh, we often see employers today trying to strike a balance between being productive, being high performance, and also making sure that their workforce has the right kind of sense of well-being. So what would you say is the role of the employer in fostering a high performance culture?
To create culture, you need to clarify and communicate value, because there's so many times I've kind of seen where they haven't communicated it well or translated it well to the people, and it's just statements. But make sure you clarify exactly what the values are, and then communicate in the right method. Not just posting on the internet and hoping that everyone's going to see it. Send it to your staff, send it to your networks, and then reinforce positive behaviors, because the culture is all generated from individuals, and if there's positive behaviors, then reinforce it. Make sure people know exactly that is a positive behavior. This is what the organization culture, the values, actually promotes and encourage everyone to do. So definitely promote and reinforce positive behavior. And then you've got encourage open communication, but making sure you encourage open communication with your employees and your staff is productive, not just for your employees, but the organization, because feedback is so powerful. And you can kind of see what those problems are well before you get to the board level. So where your staff will see problems in the grassroots, if they're open and communication is encouraged, then it'll be highlighted. You can identify those issues, you can resolve them well before they turn into an issue, and by the time it gets to board level, it's too late. Then just empower your employees, because if you've brought these employees into your organization, empower your employees to be the best they can be in the organization and the culture that they help to create, and empower your employees to be the best they can be and just do their job. And then all the way through the whole process, I would say just collect feedback, because it's probably underrated, but feedback is powerful, and you can get feedback from your employees, from your suppliers, from everyone, and that kind of helps. That helps you define your strategies, your identifying the areas of challenges, weaknesses. So collect feedback. It's priceless.
That leads me to my next question, which is about an authentic employee experience, because very often through employer branding, there's a projected image of a company, and there's a projected culture, and that's what a candidate or potential candidate might see, and then they move into the hiring process, and then eventually they become an employee. So there could be, in some cases, some kind of rift between what they see outside and what they actually experience inside. So what role can a talent acquisition professional play to ensure that positive candidate experience translates to an authentic or even fulfilling employee experience?
Going back to diversity, it's just being authentic is so important, because it's no point selling a dream where then someone comes in and then realize actually you've been sold something totally different. So just translating all the vision and values and what the role they were doing. For example, if it's TA, then they were talking about the team they were working in, the manager they were working with, the ways of working, the culture within the business, the communication. If we're talking about empowering staff, then all of that is what they're going to be doing. So they will be coming in and have the autonomy. They'll have a voice. They will, be asked to kind of think outside the box. And then putting that into the recruitment process, making sure that the TA team are then translating that, making sure that they're communicating that and providing that clarity that I kind of spoke about, which is to clarify and communicate our values. So they will translate that into real terms. So you will go into the team, you will do this. On your first day, you will have this. You will have these equipments. You will have these flexibility. You will have, everything they will do. So whatever they've been heard, whatever they've seen or what they've been spoken to about is exactly what they're going to do when they come in on the first day. It's not a matter of they've come in and then we forget about it. That whole kind of journey experience or employee experience is an extension of talent acquisition. So all we're doing, and to be honest, talent acquisition is taking what the culture internally or the employee experience and pulling out and sharing that with the external market. So we're promoting exactly what the organization does, what its values are, what the process and, everything that all good about the organization, we're pushing that and being advocates to the external market and potential talent to say, come and join us. This is why we're a good employee and why we have a great employee experience.
And being consistent about that and making sure the messaging is consistent across all channels. Since the visibility nowadays is just across different channels, and also you get the feedback as well on very public channels, and these are also forums in which candidates make the decisions about companies as well. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because with that as well, I mean, you've got social media as well, LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn just so number one at the moment, I guess, because everyone's on there. But that's what TA do. They're sharing it and they're being consistent all the way through. That's what you need to do, because there's nothing worse than you come in and then you realize actually that's just not what exactly you've been told. So just be authentic and don't be tokenistic in the sense of what you're sharing with the candidate. Just be authentic and that employee experience all the way through.
Thank you so much, Kesh. I mean, you've given us a whole breadth of insights and so many different actionable points, in fact, especially for our viewers out there who's probably looking into how to manage the different challenges around tech talent and also the candidate market as we're seeing it today. So what advice would you give someone starting out in talent acquisition today, Kesh?
Be authentic. So I think just leading on from the last bit. So be authentic. Don't change who you are. And where you're from. And you're there. For a reason. So just be authentic. Don't use all the knowledge, skills, and experience that you have to bring that to the organization and share it with the organization to be the best you can. And also, then know your numbers, based on fact, not fiction. So definitely know your numbers. And I mentioned about being consultative. So, don't work as I say you don't work in a fast food place. So, don't take orders. You're not order taking. Be consultative. Be a partner to the business. Share your insights and provide. Be that person that the manager can't live without, because they know as soon as they think about talent acquisition or recruitment, they know they've got the insight. If they're thinking about salaries, you've got be that person, be consulted, be that partner, and be confident in your abilities, because you have a lot of knowledge and experience. Use it, and don't be afraid. Be confident speaking to managers and partners and colleagues, because you've got a lot of knowledge and experience, so definitely use it, and don't be afraid to develop on those abilities as well. And then just communicate, as just communicate as as you have a lot to say, and managers want to hear. So definitely communicate as much as you can in the right way with hiring managers, and also that, with that business and colleagues as well.
Given us some good sound bites this evening, Kesh. There was challenge kindly and there was clarify and communicate, both of which I love very much. So I think there'll be quite a number of takeaways from this session. So thank you so much for your time and your insights, Kesh. But anyone who's listening in might want to connect with you. So where can they find you?
Yeah, just LinkedIn. So Kesh Ladwa on LinkedIn. You can find me. It's been a pleasure share these insights.
And we have been in conversation with Kesh Ladwa, Global Head of Talent Acquisition at Hotelbeds. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment.